Hello YouTube viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Sreetips, and today what we're going to do is we're going to do part 3 of the silver refining video. I'm going to begin by showing how to construct a small 1 liter glass silver cell in a beaker like this right here. It's a 1000 ml thick walled 1 liter beaker, and what we're going to do is construct that for you. Show how to make a power supply out of a scrap PC, and then we're going to use it to make some pure silver crystal like we've got in this bowl right here. It's about 5/9 fine pure silver crystal, just as close to pure elemental silver as you can get. What I'll be doing is using the silver that we recovered in the previous 2 videos. I've got a couple of containers here full of cement silver powder from those videos, and we'll take this, melt it into shot, and then run it through our electrolytic silver cell. And without any further delay, I'm going to get right to that and show you exactly how to do that right now. This is a shot of my waste treatment bucket. As you can see, the copper has cemented out onto this piece of iron in here. The solution is no longer blue. It's green, which means all I have in solution here is iron. All the copper's been cemented out, and that's what I want to see in this bucket. Alright, we're going to start the construction of this small 1 liter cell by using a 1 liter beaker here. It's a thick-walled, heavy-duty glass 1 liter beaker. This will be the housing for the cell. And right now what I'm going to do is make a cathode for the cell. This is a piece of graphite, hard graphite. I bought it online on eBay. It's about 1/2 inch thick, 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches square. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a drill bit, drill a hole into it. The drill bit is about the same size as this 10 gauge copper wire here. And what I'll do is drill the hole in here, fit the wire down into the hole that I drill, and then I'm going to use a 2-part epoxy to cement the coating of the wire to the piece of graphite block there to hold it in place real good. I'm not going to put any cement on the copper. I want that bare going down in the hole so that it makes good contact with the graphite block. Then, once this epoxy sets up, I'm going to use some silicone clear sealant to form a protective barrier over that 2-part epoxy. Okay, the hole in the block is just a touch larger than the piece of copper coming out of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deform it just ever so slightly so that when it goes down in there, it'll form an interference fit before I glue it in. Just kind of bend it just a little bit maybe, so that when it goes down in there, it presses up against the sides and forms a good tight fit like that. Now what I'll do is mix up a little of this 2-part epoxy. Loctite Quick Set Auto Epoxy. Takes about 5 minutes to set up. And I'm just going to put a drop on the bottom of this soup can here. A drop of each one. If you can see that or not, let me see here. Like so. Got a little bamboo skewer here. I'm going to mix it up real good. This is an old PC that I picked up at the thrift store, 13 bucks. And I chose this one. I've been looking for one like this for a while. You don't have to have this, but I chose this one because it has an on and off switch on the power supply. Okay, when I turn this power supply on, the fan doesn't start there. And what I realized is you got to come around here, press this little button right here on the front. And when you do that, the fan starts. So that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to make sure that this power supply was at least running. And as you can see, it is. Next, I'll remove the power supply from the PC and plug the electrical current. I'm going to take the panel off over here. There's little screws in the back. Other one down here. And on this particular scrap PC, the cover just comes off the side like this and exposes the internal workings. And now what I'll do is take the screws. There's 4 screws up here that hold the power supply in. Take those 4 screws out. One more. And then we have access to the power supply here. And this is the unit that we need. 2 orange wires and 3 black wires. I'm going to save this connection and I'm going to cut away all the rest of them from this gaggle of wires right here. So I'm just going to take a pair of cutters, no power to this thing now, and start cutting these other ones away. I'm going to save this one right here. This is going to be my good power supply wire. So all the other ones, I'm just going to cut them away. And there we go. Got the power supply free from the rest of the PC there with our single output wires that we'll use to wire up and power our electrolytic silver cell. Okay, before I can use the power supply, I had to take out these 4 screws, remove the cover, and there's a wire in here that has to be jumpered. It's the green wire. There's only one green wire here. And what we need to do is connect this with any black wire. So I just pulled out a random black wire and this green wire. And I need to take and bare these. And what I'm going to do is put a wire nut on it and then put the cover back on. And then we'll test out the power supply. I've completed the jumper connection in here. I put the case back on. I plugged it in. I turned the switch on and the fan is running back there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of my probes. I've got it set for 20 volts DC. I'm going to stick one of my probes in the black, in one of the black wires there, and stick the other probe in the orange wire. And you can see we got 3.4 volts DC. That's perfect for our silver cell. Okay, now I'm going to trim the plug off of this. I've got the power supply disconnected. Just trim this plug off here. And what I want to do is I want 2 orange wires and 2 black wires. So I want 2 orange and any 2 black. It doesn't make any difference where they come from. Yeah, so I got 2 black, 2 orange. I'm going to trim the rest of this off so it's not in the way. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bare the ends of these wires, twist these together, and then I got some copper clips here. I'm going to attach those with some screws, and then our power supply will be done. I've got the power supply finished, ready to be used for our silver cell now. I'm going to test it. Connect the black wire here to the black probe on the meter. The orange wire to the red probe. And I'm going to turn the unit on. Got it plugged in back here. Got the on-off switch, which is nice. You don't have to have the on-off switch, it just makes it nice. You can turn it on and off as you need the power. And there we got 3.4 volts. Ideal for our electrolytic silver cell. Here's our graphite cathode that I've epoxied the wire into. It's set overnight, 24 hours. That epoxy is hard as a rock. It ain't going nowhere. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover that up with a little bit of silicone. Just regular old window caulking for your bathtub or your windows. And just kind of dab it on there and just kind of put a bead around over the top of the epoxy. Just a 2-layer protection. Make sure we don't get any of the electrolyte in there where that copper wire is. I want to keep it isolated from the silver cell electrolyte. And that should do it. Okay, what we'll do next is I've got a little piece of paper towel here. I'm just going to wipe the exterior of the piece of wire off real good, make sure it's clean, because it will be submerged in the electrolyte. And now I'm going to shape it by bending the wire so that it fits down into the beaker, like so. So it lays flat on the bottom. And then I'm going to take the upper part of the wire and bend it back like this. And so we'll have the cathode for our silver cell isolated down in the bottom of the beaker there. I'll bare the end of this wire right here. I'll strip the coating off of the wire right here, and that'll give us a place to attach the negative side of our power supply too. So I get that stripped off there, just like that. Okay, now we're going to move this out of the way, and we're going to work on the anode basket now. The anode basket, I use these Rubbermaid little food storage containers. My wife will be delighted. She's been wanting to throw this away. And what I'm going to do to make the anode basket is we'll begin by cutting away this lid. Got a sharp razor here, and what I'm going to do is just carefully cut along the upper edge here of the lid and remove the inside material from it. Alright, there we go. We got this out of the way, and what will happen is we can use this as a retainer around the outer edge of this basket to hold the anode basket in place. Now that we've got the lid fitted, I'm going to go ahead and take a 1/4-inch drill here and drill some holes in the bottom of the anode basket. Drill some random holes. This is so that the silver electrolyte can pass through when it dissolves. Now we'll take a sharp knife and trim away the excess plastic from that operation. Okay, I've got the anode basket done. I'm going to set this out of the way. What I've got here is a small plastic lid for a small bucket, and I'm just going to cut the center of this out now with my sharp knife. And what we'll do is use this to cover the silver cell with and to hold our anode basket. Alright, this is going to be used as a cover for our silver cell. We'll set right on top just like that. What I'm going to do is take the anode basket now, pull the cover off, and I'm going to trace the pattern of the anode basket on our piece of plastic that we cut off from the lid there. Like so. Now I'm going to take a sharp knife and just cut along this line here. Okay, this piece will serve to sit atop the silver cell and hold the anode basket for us, like so. Okay, now I'm going to install the filter bag in the anode basket here. This is a Dacron filter bag for a shop vac. The number on it here is 90115 type E, Echo, Echo. And what I'll do is go ahead and open this up. Okay, the Dacron filter has a little rubber ring on it here. It's got a tag on it. I don't want either of those going down inside the anode basket, so I'll make sure those stay clear. I'm using an old paper towel tube here to shove the anode filter down into the bottom of the basket so that it bottoms out real good, making sure I don't have the tag or any of the rubber down inside the basket. I take the retainer ring, I put it over the tube like that, and then I hold it down with my chin, and then just make sure that the retainer ring seats nicely and holds the basket in place. That basket's going to want to come up out of there as I press this retainer ring down on here. So that's why I hold it down with the paper tube. And there we go. Now I'm going to take a brand new razor blade here, nice and sharp, and trim away the excess filter basket material. Just go around it like this and trim all that excess stuff that's hanging over the edge out of the way. There's our prepared anode basket with a filter, ready to be loaded with some impure silver shot for the silver cell. Our silver cell is constructed, ready to go. All the components are there. I'm going to set that off to the side now. Our power supply is all rigged up, ready to go. Let me cut this wire off here. This is not needed. Let's get rid of that. One last thing I'd like to do before I proceed here is I've got a automotive type fuse holder here, and I bought some 3 amp fuses to go in it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the positive wire here and strip the ends off and put this inline fuse holder in place as a safety precaution. Okay, what this inline fuse will do for me is, if as the silver crystal grows in the silver cell, it will start to grow upward in the cell. If it makes contact with the anode basket and burns through the anode bag, then the amperage will immediately rise and blow this fuse and save my batch of pure silver crystal. I've got the cell constructed now. I'm going to move this out of the way. I've got the power supply ready to go here with my inline fuse. I'm going to set that out of the way. And what we're going to do now is make the electrolyte. I've got a scale here, and I've got a bag of pure silver crystal from a previous refining. And this is 5 troy ounces, or about 156 or so grams. And if you put it on the scale here, I've got it marked. It's 5.07 troy ounces of silver. The bag weighs 0.120 troy ounces. The total will be 5.190 troy ounces. And what I'll do is use this silver for the electrolyte for the silver cell. Okay, to make the electrolyte, what I'm going to do here is, let's get this out of the way. Pour the silver crystal into this tall form beaker. And then we're going to go ahead and top that off, or add about some distilled water here till about the 250, 300 ml level there. That's 250 right there. That should be good, just right there. Fine. Okay, I've got the 5 tray ounces of silver in a beaker here. I've added about 300 or 250 ml of distilled water. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put this on the heat. What I want to do here is slowly add nitric acid to this. Remember to use distilled water here. I can't use tap water because it has chlorine in it. The chlorine will mix with the silver nitrate and form silver chloride, which is something I want to avoid. Right now I'm going to add about 50 ml of nitric acid to the silver. I'm going to cover it up here, and we're going to put it up on the heat and let it dissolve. The silver nitrate solution there has been on boiling now for about an hour, and a little bit of the crystal has gone into solution. I'm going to add some more nitric acid now. I'm adding concentrated nitric acid here, about 68 to 70% concentration. I'm just going to pour it straight into the beaker there. This thing is hot, so I've got to do this real careful. Otherwise, it's going to want to boil over on me. Very slowly. Okay, I added about 30 or 40 ml of concentrated nitric acid there. Like I said, this is real hot, so you got to add that carefully, otherwise it'll boil over. It's been about 30 minutes since that last dose of nitric acid. I'm going to add a little bit more here. Probably about another 20 ml. Very slowly because that solution's real hot. Bit more distilled water so that the silver has a place to go to when it gets dissolved. While I'm waiting for the electrolyte to dissolve, I'm going to go ahead and cast me a cement silver bar here to start making my anode bar for the silver cell. Okay, the electrolyte has been on the heat there for about 4.5 hours. If you look down in there, you'll see that there's just a few grains of silver left over, no fumes. And so what we're going to do now is turn the power off. And I'm going to take this off the heater there, and we're going to let this cool down. What I've got here is a melt dish that I've used to melt some silver in. And what I'm going to do to begin this process is I've got a small drill bit here. It's 3/32. I'm just going to drill a small hole in the bottom of this melt dish right now. There we go. Got a small 3/32 inch hole drilled in the bottom of this melt dish. Here I've got a container of my cement silver. Over here I've got the melt dish that I just put the hole in it. It's suspended in a steel ring here. Underneath that is a map gas torch that I've got just laying on the sill of my fume hood. The flame directed at the hole. I've got this on a ring stand with a weight here to hold everything in place. What I'm going to do is go ahead and put some of the cement silver into the melt dish, melt it with my oxyacetylene torch, and drip it into this bucket of water I've got down here. It's a 5-gallon bucket of water with a steel container down inside of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and load some of the cement silver into my melt dish here with the hole in the bottom. Now I'll start the torch up and commence the melt. Well, this didn't work out exactly as I'd planned. Here's our silver shot in here. And apparently I didn't have the water deep enough or whatever. It just made a giant clump of silver. It welded together as it went through the water and stuck together. It's still molten. And it welded together. So what I'm going to have to do here is figure something else out to make the shot. I've reconfigured my melt setup here. I've got my melt dish set up with some cement silver in it here. I've got a metal container down here with my circulating pump, circulating the water. Over here I've got my electric melt pot set up, and I'm going to fill a full charge of metal into that, melt that, and what I'll do is when I get this melted, I'll take the metal that's melted in the melt pot and pour it into the dish and get it all to go down here and make shot all at once. I've got my chunk of silver here that welded together from the last attempt, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick this right in with the cement silver there, and we'll melt all this all at once, and hopefully we'll I'm going to put some ice down here. Hopefully we'll be able to make some good shot on this attempt for our silver cell. Well, that worked out pretty good. Here's our silver granules, suitable for running through the silver cell. Worked out pretty good. Pleased with that result. Now I'm going to dump tap water off here and then get the silver granules on some heat and dry them out. Okay, I think the silver is completely dry now. Yeah, it's all dried out. We'll let this cool down, and then we'll go make preparations to get the silver cell in operation. I'm going to measure the silver now, get a weight on it. Zero out the scale. Just going to try to pour this in here. See what we got. That's 741 grams. And then I got the silver from the first melt. I'm going to add that to it now. So we got 870 grams of cement silver that's been melted into granules for the silver cell. I'm ready to assemble the silver cell now and put the electrolyte in it. First, what I'm going to do is take out the components here, set these off to the side. I'm going to put a filter into the beaker. I've got a pre-folded filter here. It's a 102 filter. And what I want to do is filter the electrolyte into my silver cell. Notice I've got just a little bit of undissolved silver in the bottom of that beaker. That's what I want to see. That means all the available nitric acid's been used up. I'm just going to pour it right in the filter now and filter it down into the silver cell. This is our electrolyte for the electrolytic silver cell. Okay, while that's filtering, I'm going to go ahead and load up the anode basket. I'm going to put some impure silver into the filter here. Get it ready to submerge into the cell. Now I'm going to stick the anode bar on top of the silver that's in the basket there. I want that anode bar nice and chunky so that as the silver dissolves in the anode basket here, it presses the silver on top down into the bottom that's submerged in the electrolyte. I'm going to go ahead and bury this in impure silver shot to make sure we get a good connection, good electrical contact. All the electrolytes pass down through this filter. Now I'm going to go ahead and rinse it out real good with some distilled water. The filter's been rinsed out now. What I'm going to do is remove the filter to this container over here. Set it off to the side. And what we'll do now is I've got some distilled water here. I'm going to fill it up to just above the 1000 ml level here with distilled water. Need a little bit more there. We'll go about a ½ inch above that 1000 ml level. Then we're going to take a glass rod here and stir this up and make sure everything's nice and mixed real good. Now I'm going to go ahead and put our cathode, our graphite cathode that we made, down into the cell. It's going to displace some of that electrolyte a little further. And we're going to put the cover on. And I see right now that I'm going to be a little too full. I put too much in there. When I put the anode basket down in there, it's going to overflow. So I'm going to have to remove some of the electrolyte. Got it a little too full here. I'm just going to take some of the electrolyte out now. Okay, I've lowered the level of the electrolyte. Now we're going to go ahead and finish assembling the cell. I'm going to put our cover on here. And then drop in the anode basket carefully. Make sure I don't overflow it. That looks about right there. You can see the levels right up near the rim of the beaker, but that's okay. The more that we have submerged, the greater the current flow will be. And this can be saved so that we can rehydrate the cell later on if some of that electrolyte evaporates down. So we just save this and set it aside to rehydrate our cell. Okay, I've got the cell assembled. Got our PC power supply. It's plugged in. It's turned off right now. And what I'm going to do is attach the positive end up here to my anode bar in the anode filter basket. And I'm going to attach the negative end of the power supply to the cathode down here in the bottom. Like so. And then we're going to turn the power on, and we should have a working electrolytic silver cell. Here we go. I just energized the power supply. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but I'm already starting to get some silver, pure silver crystal forming on the graphite cathode down there. The silver starts to grow on that thing almost instantly. So we're getting silver built up on the cathode right now. As you can see, the silver is starting to grow rapidly on the graphite cathode there. It's been working now. It's been running for about 30 minutes. That's 30 minutes worth of growth. Okay, I came back in from work and the crystal had grown this much. I've got a glass rod here and I'm going to go ahead and push these crystals down. And we'll go ahead and let it run. Well, I finally got the silver cell operating. It's been years since I've operated a small silver cell like this. And if you look, the crystal's already halfway up to the anode basket. And I've only been here about half an hour since I knocked those crystals down. So the crystals have got to be checked at least hourly and knocked down. Otherwise, they'll make contact with the anode basket, burn a hole through it, and contaminate the pure silver crystal. It's been about 45 minutes since the last time I tamped these crystals down. They're growing rapidly, and this has to be done every hour. If we don't do this, what will happen is the crystals will contact that basket, burn a hole through the bag, contaminate the batch of silver. So they got to be knocked down every hour. What I'm going to do now is check the voltage going through the cell. Got my meter over here set to 20 volts DC. Put the black probe on the cathode side over here. The red probe on the anode bar up here. And we see we've only got 2.8 volts going through the cell. Okay, as you can see, I'm getting 3.4 volts out of the power supply. when it's disconnected from the cell. Now I'm going to reconnect it to the cell here and see what the voltage is. I'm only getting 2.8 volts. I'm going to go ahead and feed some more of the impure silver into the anode basket here. Crystals have been growing for about an hour and a half since the last time I pushed them down, and they're almost up to the anode basket here. I'm going to go ahead and press them down again. This is the end of day 2. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. When I'm not here, I've got to turn this thing off. The crystal grows too rapidly. And if I'm not here, it'll make contact with the anode basket there. So I'm going to press this down. I've already shut the power supply off. And then when I come back out tomorrow, I'll start it back up. This is the end of day 3. I'm going to go in now and get some rest. I'm going to turn the cell off. As you can see here, the crystal growth has grown up to within about a ½ inch of the anode basket. I've been shoving those crystals down all day like this. I'm going to go ahead and turn our power supply off. Shove these crystals down. I'll go in and get me some rest. I'll come back out in the morning and start it back up. Got to do this every hour. This is the 3rd day of operation. This is day 4. The crystal growth is increasing. The level of silver in the cell there is starting to build up. Another 5 minutes and those crystals would begin to touch that anode bag and create a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and knock these down. This is day 4. Got to constantly knock these down, otherwise the crystals will contact the anode basket, burn through the anode filter, and contaminate our batch of pure silver crystal. We'll go ahead and wrap this up for today by turning our power supply off and securing the cell for the day. I just turned it off here and now it's secured. Come back out tomorrow, start it back up and keep going. This is day 5. The silver cell is starting to get kind of, the levels increasing here, so it doesn't take long for these crystals to grow up near the anode basket. It's only been a ½ an hour since the last time I pushed them down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and push these down again. You got to make sure and wear gloves. You don't have to have nitrile gloves, but get something on your hands to protect them from this electrolyte. It's made out of silver nitrate and it will sting your hands black. This is day 5 of the silver cell operation. You can see in the anode filter here that most of the silver, it's down at least halfway there, so a lot of it's been consumed by the process, the refining process. I've had this on now for about 30 minutes and the crystal level in here has gotten to the point where it's growing up, and I'm having to come out here every 20-25 minutes to tamp it down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this down and harvest this crystal out of here. Notice that the color of the electrolyte is turning blue. That is from the copper that's in the impure silver shot that we're putting through the anode filter up here. The copper dissolves and goes into solution into the electrolyte. It's not a problem, and the silver cell will tolerate up to 60 grams per liter. before the copper starts plating out with the silver. Alright, we're going to go ahead and turn the power supply off here. Remove the clip from the anode bar up here in the anode basket. Remove the clip from the cathode down here. Get those out of the way. I've got a beaker here, and I'm going to take the anode bar and just place it in this beaker and save it. I can use that again. Okay, I've got the beaker that has our residual electrolyte here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and transfer our anode basket right over here. Let it drain out a little bit there, and just transfer it right into this beaker. Doesn't matter if it drips down and gets in here. I'll be adding some more of this electrolyte to this cell when we start it back up anyway. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pour off the electrolyte out of the cell here into a clean beaker. Let's see if I got the angle right here. I'm just going to carefully pour off the electrolyte in this clean beaker here. Set the electrolyte off to the side over here. I'm going to reuse this. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the crystals out of here and rinse them off real good. Now what I'll do is, let me move this camera over here. What I'll do is transfer the crystals from this beaker into this 2-liter beaker here. It's easy to do, just kind of pull out the whole wad along with your cathode. Just kind of shake them off like that. Those that are remaining in here can just be, actually we can just pour this electrolyte over here into the, we want to save as much of that as we can. I got distilled water I just added there. I'm just going to get the rest of these crystals out with a little distilled water. Don't have to get it completely clean because we're going to just be reusing this to start the cell back up. Put the cathode back in here. Set the crystals off to the side here. And we'll reassemble this cell. Alright, now I'm just going to go ahead and pour this electrolyte right back in the cell. Reuse it again. It's a little bit bluish green color. That's telling me there's a little bit of dissolved copper, but I can tell by the pale blue color that we haven't exceeded the limit for our copper saturation for the cell, so we should be good to go to use this at least one more time to keep refining our silver. Alright, I'm going to take our anode basket over here, and I'm going to place that on top of this beaker. I'm going to add a little bit more of the electrolyte because as the cell operates, some of the silver will come out of this solution and it'll weaken it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour some of this right on in to replenish the electrolyte in the cell. That's up to the 1000 ml level. That's just about perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead, put the anode basket right back on there. Just submerged. Hook up the negative side to the cathode, or graphite cathode. The positive side is going to go back up here on our anode bar. Get it out of our beaker here. Clip the bar on, or the positive side of the power supply back onto the anode bar. Start it back up and keep going with the cell. I'm going to add a little bit more impure silver shot to the anode basket here. Pull that anode up from the bottom so it doesn't dissolve. We want to try to be able to use this anode bar over and over again. As long as we keep it out of the electrolyte and down at the bottom of that basket, that bar, that anode bar, can be used over and over again. I've got our pure silver crystal in the beaker there. Over here I've got some distilled water boiling on the stove there. Well, it's actually not boiling, but it's probably up to 180 degrees. It's best to use hot water to do these rinses, I've found. And so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and add some of the hot water to our beaker here. First let me pour all the electrolyte that I can here. Okay, the idea here is to rinse all the electrolyte off of the silver crystal. Just add some hot water to it, and then I take a thick glass rod and I stir it up real good in there, making sure that as much of the electrolyte gets rinsed off as possible. And then I just add that to this jar down here, because it's still got some silver in it, and I want to recover that silver out of this rinse water. Now I'm going to do a second rinse. Hot tap water here, about 180 degrees. No, hot distilled water, not tap water. This is distilled water. About 180 degrees. You can't use tap water here because it'll form silver chloride in here, something you want to try to avoid. So we're using hot distilled water to rinse these crystals off. Okay, this will be the third rinse with hot distilled water. This time what I'm going to do is take a little sample in this small beaker here, and I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid to it and see if we precipitate any silver chloride. If we do, that means we need to continue rinsing. If we don't, that means what we're going to do is rinse one more time just for good measure, and then we'll go ahead and dry out the crystals. Alright, now what I'll do is add some hydrochloric acid to this. If I get a cloud of silver chloride, that means we still got to rinse. And you see I do. Still got silver chloride in the rinse water. That means we got to rinse those crystals some more. Fourth rinse here. Hot distilled water. Okay, this will be our fifth rinse. Hot distilled water. Get another sample of this rinse water and see where we are with the rinsing. Not too much silver chloride forming there, but I'm going to go ahead and give it another rinse. Looks fairly clear. We'll pour this off and give it another rinse. Okay, this will be the sixth rinse. Hot distilled water here. This is our sixth rinse. I'm going to go ahead and test this one again, see if we got all the silver chloride out. Here's our clear liquid. Add some hydrochloric acid. If we got silver in here, it'll turn cloudy. And it stays crystal clear with no traces of silver chloride. So it's safe to conclude that that silver crystal's been rinsed free of the electrolyte. Alright, I've got a lid on this silver chloride jar here. I saved this for later recovery. I've got all the electrolyte off of the silver crystal. Looks like diamonds in there. What I'm going to do is put the heat on low down here and put it into a casserole dish and evaporate off all the water. The silver is completely dry now. All the moisture's out of it. I've got a dish here that I've got the weight written on the side. It's 693.3 grams is the weight of the dish. I've got my scale here zeroed out. We're going to weigh the dish and the silver now. And what we get is 1,000.9 grams. So to calculate how much silver I got in there, what I'll do is take 1,000.9 grams minus the weight of the dish, which is 693.3. 693.3, and that equals, so we got 307.6 grams of pure silver crystal in this dish. Alright, now what I'm going to do is convert this over to troy ounces. Got a melt dish here. I'm going to zero out the weight of the melt dish. And then I'm going to load this melt dish up with some silver. And we're going to melt this up into a bar and then post it for sale online. I've got about 5.08 troy ounces of pure silver here. What we're going to do now is go out to the melt table out here and melt this up into a bar and see if we can sell this thing online. Okay, here's our fine silver bar, probably 3/9 fine or better. It's got a little piece of flux on it right there. Got a little frost to it in the center, but that's okay. Let's put it on the scale here and see how much we weigh. We got 5.1 troy ounces. That's because I added just a touch of silver before I started that melt to make sure I was over 5 ounces on this bar. So I got 5.1 troy ounces. Here's the restart using the same electrolyte. This is the second go around with this electrolyte. You can see how much silver is already grown in there. It's been running now for a couple hours, I guess. Okay, this will conclude the third part of the three-part series of my silver refining videos. I was able to take this cement silver that we got in parts 1 and 2, melt it into impure shot, and then run it through the silver cell And I got some pure silver crystal here. It's pretty dazzling looking. It's nice and bright and shiny. Got some real nice reflective surfaces. Looks real good. This is the remnants from that was left over before I melted this bar. Then I've got this bar that I melted up. It's got 999 fine silver on it. It's got the date 2018-0903, which is the 3rd of September, and in 5 troy ounces. It actually weighs 5.1 troy ounces. I added a little extra silver. I always do that to my bars to make sure they're not underweight. And then I stamp my name down here, Street Tips. I'll be putting this up on my eBay site. Just type Street Tips in the search block on eBay and you'll be able to find this. And we'll put it up for bids and see what it goes for and have a little fun with that. Anyway, this concludes the 3-part series of the silver refining video. I hope you learned something. And I check my comments section every day. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And if I can answer them, if I've got some experience with it, I'll answer those questions for you. If I don't, I'll just tell you I don't have any experience with it. So anyway, thanks for watching.